when you look at his record, you really say, "Hey, this is a gentleman, a gentleman," and I just want to say that I'm proud to have him on. He uh, was a Portsmouth City uh, on the city council from
Hmm.
2004 to 2012. He was a former federal prosecutor, and currently he is a very fine attorney. But more than that, he's a very nice person, and I can't say that about everybody. Welcome, Steve Harrison. How are you?
Thanks for thanks for having me. Happy Sunday. Hope everybody's doing all right out there. The weather's been pretty awful.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. How's your team doing tonight? Is your team winning today?
No, listen, I'm an Eagles fan. That Thursday was a mess, so I'm just happy that I gotta watch that today. Last season we were all there. This season I'm not sure what the hell. Well, we know what's going on.
Oh boy, it's okay. I mean that and
Maybe
not the
you think
score.
so, but the rest of us are like
It, so, Steve Harrison, tell us, for those of us that don't know, where you from, sir?
I
Originally,
grew
are
up
you
in
from?
no, no. I grew up in Hopewell, up near Petersburg, Richmond.
Okay,
You know, went to William and Mary for college. Went to law school up at Villanova in Philadelphia. Ended up here in P Town back in the early '90s when I got an offer of a very nice job when I was still working for the Justice Department up in Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. So I
okay,
moved myself down here back in the early '90s. Met a nice girl. Got a son. I mean, it's home. I'm proud that Portsmouth is my home.
and that nice girl would be
Her name is Stephanie, so we get Steve and Stephanie. Confuses
right.
everybody, but it's easy for me to remember at least.
Yes, but I don't want you to forget. Not here. You gotta say it. You just it's not
That's
going to
right.
be a good day. I'm trying to help you. Okay.
I hear you. I appreciate that.
Now you went to a college of medicine, right? That
Yeah, I
that's
did.
your
Yeah, it was kind of a weird program. After I finished college at William and Mary, I got into what's called a dual doctoral program. It was a JD, a Juris Doctorate at Villanova Law School, and a
mhm,
PhD at Hahnemann University Medical School in Philadelphia. So the first year was medical school, the second year was law school, and then third, fourth, fifth years it was all back and
mhm,
forth between them. So it was pretty hectic. Got my law degree after the fifth year. Went out and clerked for a federal judge in downtown Philadelphia.
mhm,
And then the government called. The Justice Department offered me a
mhm.
job and a nice one, and I just didn't look back. I completed all the work for the PhD except to the dissertation, which I just never got around to be candid with you. So I got one doctorate instead of two, but I'll just have to live
Yeah.
with that.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's amazing. That's most folks don't do
Well,
that, and it's good to know that you are academically astute, as they say.
well, I think one thing that it taught me, though, because it was a PhD in forensic clinical psychology, so we did a lot of work
Hmm.
back at that time with addicts. I worked up in
Hmm.
a clinic in North Philadelphia with
Right.
addicts who basically were street people who were suffering from schizophrenia and times things like that. So I became pretty familiar with the issues surrounding addiction and certainly mental
Hmm.
illness. And I think it taught me quite a lot about just how to deal with people because I got to tell you, now these are good folks, but they're challenged, and we have to
Yeah.
find ways to help them, to support them.
Hmm.
And to me, it was coming from a Virginia town going to North Philadelphia. That's kind of an eye opener, I'll tell you.
Has it been a great asset in the legal world?
I think it has. Certainly, I think I deal with people differently, more respectfully. I hope, and I think that I've learned to take people more, on their own terms. Where they're coming from,
Hmm.
rather than law school doesn't teach you how to deal with people. Law school teaches you how to use the books, right?
Hmm.
So I can tell you one of the problems that we kind of had in this program. It's a very limited program. In my year, there were only four students who were accepted to this program. You had to be accepted into the law school, then the medical school, and then the program itself. So it was like a multi-step process. So there's not a lot of folks got in it, but it was the adjustment between the way you have to think in law school and the way you have to think in medical school was kind of inconsistent. It was a little bit different. So it was a bit of a challenge, but I think it's helped me be a better lawyer, and I hope it's be a better person, to be candid.
So you're running for a Commonwealth attorney.
Yeah.
Why?
Let me start this way. I've been around Portsmouth now since almost 35 years. And it's my home. I've raised my family here. I'm proud of it. And I see, having been on city council and having been on the Community Criminal Justice Board and even having represented Portsmouth in the Virginia House of Delegates in the General Assembly, I see what we can be. We are a proud community, and I think we are full of good people. But the problems that we have, we're perceived as like the second most dangerous city in Virginia after Petersburg.
Right.
Look, we are never going to be measured up to any other locality in Hampton Roads like Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, if we can't get our streets safe, right? Because you hear it yourself. People don't want to live here. People don't want to send kids to school here if they don't think they're going to be safe. And when you hear, as we often do, that there's so many problems in our Commonwealth Attorney's office, murder cases being just messed up and dropped.
Right.
I figure that, each of us in our own way has to step up. We have to give back to our community the best way we can. And this is my way. I've been in public service now for about 20 years. To be candid with you, I never thought I'd run for anything ever again. But, after a while as an attorney and as a neighbor, you think to yourself, this can't last. And somebody's got to step up and get this right, because a Commonwealth attorney, that's a specialized job. It's not just blocking people up and throwing away the key. It's about being the voice for the community, about being the voice for victims. And if that's not being done, then where are we as a community? Where are we as neighbors? No, that's why I'm running in a nutshell.
Are you running a Democrat, Republican, or independent?
I am an independent, and I will tell you that, as everybody knows, when I was on city councils all run at large, so that was independent. When I was in the House of Delegates, I was a Democrat, and proudly so. But, one thing I learned being in Richmond around politics is that, Portsmouth doesn't need Washington's problems. Portsmouth doesn't need Richmond's problems. We got enough right here. And trying to kowtow to political leadership, doesn't get us anywhere. Because I can tell you, in the House of Delegates, a lot of the policies that we were called to vote on are dictated from Northern Virginia, or dictated from other places. They don't know anything about Portsmouth, and frankly, they don't much care. So I just kind of put all that aside and say, look, I'm running as a neighbor. I'm running as an independent. I'm not listening to anybody's political stuff. That's all fine, but I think that, we have to solve our own problems, and I think we can do that.
Right. Are you for defunding the police, or are you for adding more? Is it a lack of funds problem, lack of people problem, or where do you stand with that?
That is a big question. I'm glad you asked, because, I think that, for a while, looking at some of the problems with police departments in other parts of the country, Minneapolis, for example, I can understand why people say that, but I can tell you that Portsmouth right now, depending on what day it is between 60 and 80 officers short. Okay.
Right.
They don't have enough police officers on our streets as it is. So the idea that we would be defunding them when we need them the most doesn't exactly sit right with me. And I got to tell you that, Portsmouth, we don't seem to have the types of problems that you hear with other localities, Minneapolis, going back to that one, or Detroit, or like Los Angeles, keep going, right? We have a diverse department that is, I think, incredibly well led. And so instead of defunding them, I think we need to sort of build them up. We need to encourage them and support them to protect us, because they're stretched. And, anybody who says defund the police, I think, is simply asking for trouble, because I got to tell you, if somebody comes knocking your door down in the middle of the night, I don't think you're going to be calling for a social worker. You're going to be calling for the police, right?
That's right.
So, again, it's not about defunding this or funding that. I think that all we need to do is staff them up, keep the department diverse, keep the solid leadership in place,
Mhm.
and deal with the problems if and when they occur. I don't think we need to be borrowing problems from other places, like I said, because we got enough of our own. But right now, at least as far as I know, the police department in Portsmouth is not one of them. They're doing the best
Okay.
they can.
You said keep it diverse. Is it to you? Is it diverse enough now?
Well, I think it is. I mean, I certainly think that you can always point to things and say, well, maybe a little bit better here, a little bit better there. But remember, our chief came up through the ranks. He's African
Hmm.
American. He is a solid police officer. I've known him for years. He didn't come from some other place. He came up through the ranks here, and I think he has an excellent rapport not only with the men and women of his department,
Hmm.
but with the community at large. I mean, he goes out to neighborhoods. I mean, he is seen. You can go have coffee with him. I mean, he's really a down to earth guy. And by the way, he's no nonsense. He
Right.
he calls it like it is. But I think we have a good proportion of black and white officers, male and female officers. We
Hmm.
have some Hispanic officers. I mean, I think we got a really good mix. We have to
Hmm.
kind of keep our eye on that to make sure that we continue to do that. But a lot of the officers we have are here because not that they were born and bred in Portsmouth, but because they were in the military. They see what this community can be, and they're dedicated to helping us be that. So I think we got the foundation, we got the building blocks for a solid police department. And I think that the problem is the Commonwealth Attorney's Office just kind of falls short, given
Hmm.
what the police try to do, when it comes to the courtroom. That's where I come
Right. How are they falling short exactly? You said falling short. In what way?
Well, remember that the police, they will investigate, a report of a crime. They'll try to
Hmm.
develop a case. They'll put it all together, and then they'll hand it over to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. Right? It's up to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office taken into a courtroom. Not a lot happens, excuse me, without that step.
Right.
Now, you know, as we've seen, especially in the past couple of years, we have murder cases walking out the door because of mistakes that the Commonwealth Attorney's Office is making. This is not simple, these are not little technicalities. These are
Hmm.
violating individuals' constitutional rights, violating their civil rights. And when you lose murder case after murder case after murder case, the folks who've been charged, they're going right back on the street to see the
Hmm.
families of the victims, the people that they allegedly have killed. What does that say to the
Hmm.
community? And
Right.
just the 2 weeks ago, I had a lady come by my office, dropped off a transcript of a hearing, and I'm glad she did because it's one of those things where you don't quite believe it if you hear it, but the transcript speaks to it. There was a trial that was due to start on September the 23rd in front of Judge
Hmm.
Melvin here and now.
Right.
The defendant had been charged with raping a Hampton University student. Okay,
Hmm.
and get to trial. We have a very capable public defender's office here. If they stand up and say, Your Honor, we move to dismiss because the Commonwealth has failed to adequately plead the indictment. Okay, there's certain things you got to
Hmm.
say. They didn't say
Right.
it. And here's Judge Melvin saying, What am I supposed to do? You're right. So the individual that walked into the courtroom looking at maybe 10 to 20 years in jail for
Right.
raping a Hampton
Hmm.
University student walks out of the courtroom with a misdemeanor conviction for disorderly conduct and anger management. Okay? And
Hmm.
that's because of a drafting error. We
Right.
see this all the time. And, I've been a lawyer, you know this. I've been a lawyer for like 35 years. I've been in federal
Right.
courts, I've been in state courts, I've been all over the
Hmm.
place.
Hmm.
And very rarely do you see a judge, if a judge has a problem with a lawyer, and it happens, you kind of get called back, into the judge's office and the door gets
Right.
closed and, they kind of let you know what the problem is, right? To see a judge sitting on the bench telling a lawyer that you're not prepared, you're not ready, you're not,
Hmm.
what are you doing here? That's rare, but I see it all the time.
Hmm.
And to me, if you're going to stand up in the courtroom and you're going to represent the people of Portsmouth, the victims, you got to know your stuff. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be prepared.
Right.
You have to be mindful that you carry, it's more than winning or losing a case. This is protecting a community. And if you don't take that seriously and you don't take that to heart, you shouldn't be in the job. And
Right.
that's where I have a problem. And I can tell you, we do have some good attorneys in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, but they're
Mhm.
at half staff. You know, a lot of people cycle through that just won't work for the Commonwealth Attorney anymore. You know, they've gone to other Commonwealth Attorney's offices. They've gone to Attorney General's office. They've gone to the U.S. Attorney's office. They're
Right.
dedicated prosecutors, but they don't want to work here because they don't want to work for her.
Mhm.
Now they tell me they will come back and work for me because when I was in the Justice
So,
Department, I ran an office. I was a supervisory
right.
attorney. You know,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, that's where the rubber
Mhm.
meets the road here. If you can't walk and chew gum in a courtroom, you shouldn't be in one.
Right. So, what is your plan? What would be your plan then? First day, what would you do?
Well, first day is about rebuilding. Okay, I don't want to go in and
Mhm.
fire everybody, none of that stuff, because I think people are worried about
Right.
that. I want to see, and then I think I have a good idea already, but I want to see what those prosecutors can really do. Like I said, we've got some good ones. We have some maybe not so good ones, but with a little training, some support, maybe they can come up. But the other big thing we have to do, and it's going to take a while, is that you got to go out and hire legitimate attorneys to come in and work this office, right? They're at
Right.
half staff, and they can't keep up with what they've got now. You have police officers basically prosecuting misdemeanor cases, which, frankly, there's some misdemeanors, especially more serious violent misdemeanors, that
Mhm.
should be represented by the Commonwealth. That they are in Norfolk, they're in Virginia Beach, other places, Chesapeake, certainly. So I need to build up that office, and I need to make
Mhm.
sure that the type of mistakes that cause these cases to be dropped and dismissed over and over and over are never repeated. This is the only office in the state that has these problems. And it didn't, and I mean, once is too many, but over and over, that's inexcusable, man. I mean, you just can't do
Mhm.
that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, do you think that the office is a victim of DUI?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Uh, I mean, do you think that there are attorneys in this office there that is just there to fill a quota instead of qualified?
Well, I mean, let me put it to you this way, and this might blow your mind a little bit, but bear with me.
Okay.
Every month, the Virginia State Bar issues this little sort of a newsletter that tells
Hmm.
you statewide how many attorneys have been disbarred or disciplined, lost their licenses for various things, right?
Right.
Last October, there were only 4 attorneys in the entire state who were disbarred that month. 2 of them have several things in common. Number one,
Right.
both have been disbarred before. This was not their
Mhm.
first round.
Right.
Second, both of them were employed by the Portsmouth Commonwealth Attorney's Office, right? She's
Right.
hiring attorneys who have been disbarred before. And one of them was disbarred here because he's now doing federal time for drug distribution. So, you got to vet your people. Number one,
Hmm.
you got to make sure that they've been to qualified law schools. They're not bringing, problems to your door, and you got to make sure that, the people who are there want to be there and they're not simply drawing a paycheck.
Right.
I think
Exactly.
sometimes, and I hear it from judges a lot,
Hmm.
because frankly, as an attorney, I do have clients who are judges. I have clients who are other Commonwealth's attorneys, believe it or not.
Right.
Yeah, I hear this from them. And they're telling me, it's like, look, you've got to hire you can hire good attorneys. They're out there, but they ain't working for her.
Hmm.
So, we have a chance to rebuild that office and get them back doing what they should be doing. And it's not all lock them up and throw away the key. I don't mean that. But again, it's about making sure that when the police bring a case to the office, that it's thoroughly investigated, that it's
Hmm.
thoroughly presented. Because remember, we all play a role in this stuff. The
Right.
defense counsel plays a role, the prosecution plays a role, the judge plays a role, the jury, our neighbors play a role.
Hmm.
And unless everybody's doing what they should be doing, it falls apart, right? People shouldn't, people are
Right.
walking away
Right.
that shouldn't be. And by the
That's
same
right.
token, I never suggest ever that people should be convicted who shouldn't be. But a Commonwealth attorney has
Hmm.
a special deal, and that is to do justice. Okay, it's not to represent,
Hmm.
an individual or a state. It's to do justice. It's to make sure that the right thing happens.
Hmm.
And I think that's where, going back to my training and in psychology and working with addiction in Philadelphia,
Right.
I think that's really made me more sensitive to the problems that we see. People who are doing, basically committing crimes because they're addicted. They might not be, dealing with they might be dealing with mental illness or that it goes untreated. I mean, those are things that we need to be addressing, and we just can't address it with half staff and attorneys who may not be as committed to the job as you would hope.
when we talked about the office and under safety, you said that you would work closely with law enforcement.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, I mean, listen, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office is a law enforcement agency. I think
Hmm.
if you listen to the current Commonwealth Attorney, you'd almost think that she was doing social service, but we've already got a social service agency. When I was in DOJ as a supervisory attorney, I dealt with
Hmm.
FBI, DEA, U.S. Marshals. I dealt with some intelligence agencies. You know, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office has to
Hmm.
do all of that and work with the state police, which I've done, work with the Attorney General's office, and I'm very familiar with, both guys, the current Attorney General and Jay Jones, who's running to replace him. I mean, I served with both of them in the House. I know them both extremely well. I have all these relationships and all these resources that I've already been able to put on the table. So to me, it's
Right.
just building on what I've done before. But again, the Commonwealth
Hmm.
Attorney's Office isn't there to do social work. It's there to enforce the law. And
Right.
that's, I think, where a lot of things kind of get missed here. Because if you want to do public policy, go run for the General Assembly. I've done that. Then you get to make the law. The Commonwealth Attorney's job is to enforce the law
Right.
fairly, but you don't get to make it up as you go.
That's right. You've gone over this in talking, but just to clarify and tie it up,
Sure.
uh, explain what you mean by restoring professionalism.
Again, it's about making sure that we have motivated attorneys, and by the way, motivated support staff in the office who
Right.
are committed to doing the job, not just pulling a paycheck.
Hmm.
It's about making sure that they're there for the right reasons. Because let's face it, just like we see sometimes in other police departments, you have police officers who may not be there for the right reasons. You've got to have the same consciousness about the
Right.
attorneys that in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, right?
That's right.
Because just like you don't want them doing less of a job, you don't want them doing more of a job either, right? You want to make sure that they're balanced and they're
Mm-hmm.
not bringing their personal baggage to work with them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and we're always told when I work for justice, it's like you leave your stuff at the door.
Right.
You ain't here to worry about whether you had a fight with the wife or the kids are causing you problems or the
Right.
neighbors raising
Right.
making noise. You got to leave that at the door. You got to be focused on the job. Okay.
I
And I
hear
can
you.
tell you that given some of what I've personally seen and what I've heard from judges and other lawyers,
Right.
not a lot of that is happening right now. And I can tell
Right.
you that the Commonwealth attorney, she's not there. She didn't come to court. There are
Mm.
judges, I know one judge who's been on the bench for 10 years. As long as she's been Commonwealth attorney, she's never set foot in his courtroom.
Really.
True.
And,
And I can
can
tell you,
we've been saying she.
right?
Can we name this person, or you rather
If you'd
not?
like
Or
me to, her name is
go
Stephanie Morales. Yeah. I mean, that's the
say it
name. Let's
again
call her
slowly.
Stephanie Morales,
Okay.
you know,
All
call the
right.
name. And,
Mm-hmm.
she's been Commonwealth attorney for 10 years now. And, you'd think at the beginning, okay, well, there's a learning curve. She started, she got elected when she was fairly new in the office. But you
Mm-hmm.
think after 10 years, you kind of have your act together.
That's right.
Um, Not happening. And then, by the way, I can tell you this because, here you and I can talk about, her
Mm-hmm.
record and people will listen. But, when we speak in public, she refuses to even come out and speak if there is any mention at all of her record. True. In other
Really?
words, you can't say anything to her about lost cases, about all the problems she's had. No. You can hear about some of her programs, which are nice. I mean, don't get me wrong, but you start talking about her on the job performance. She will leave. She won't talk about it. And to me,
That's
as that's a little messed up. I think, right?
yeah. That's the DNA of what you of a job. Your performance.
Right. I mean, look, I can tell you that I've been on Portsmouth City Council. I probably threw up, I don't
So
know,
let's put your
many votes. I mean, people hit me up on votes
yeah.
in the Richmond in the general assembly. You live on your record, man. I mean, I'm not always right,
Mm-hmm.
but I stand up for what I did. I take responsibility for it, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Right.
But yeah, to me, that's legitimate. If you're not willing to stand and deliver on your record, what are you doing there?
Exactly. Wow. And we talking about people's lives that's at stake here.
Right.
But I want to let's toot your horn for a little bit.
Okay.
Tell me about the Martindale Hubble peer review.
Well, okay. Um, well, Martindale Hubble is an international directory of attorneys. Okay, and
Hmm.
I like it. I had there's like what do they call it? Michelin stars you get like restaurants can get, right? They'll go around and they'll rate restaurants. Well, Martindale Hubble rates
Right.
attorneys.
Okay.
Okay, and you can't buy a rating. They will talk to judges. They will talk to other attorneys. They will come into a community and say, all right, who are the good ones? Who are, who should we be looking at to rate?
Hmm.
And, if you are rated, and most attorneys are not even rated, there are 3 levels. Okay. And I have, it's called, AV preeminent, which is the very highest possible rating an attorney can get. Less than 3% of all attorneys ever get to this rating. And I'm
Wow.
proud of that. Because listen, if you're working for a big firm like in Norfolk or Virginia Beach,
Hmm.
it's a little bit easier. But when you're a solo guy like me, being able to stand out in that crowd and getting an AV preeminent is like winning an Oscar. I mean, it's like,
Hmm.
I'm pretty proud of that.
Congratulations.
Well,
Congratulations.
but I'm just, it's honored to me that, other attorneys, judges, they think that I'm that good. I mean, because I can tell you that, I'm not good at beating my own drum here, but when I got the call, it's like, hey, you've got an AV coming up. It's like,
Hmm.
really, me?
Hmm.
Okay, wow. It's
Wow.
a nice phone call to get. I can tell you.
Yeah. So, did you enjoy? I heard that you were in the parade
Which,
in
yeah,
Portsmouth.
it's been in several. Which parade?
Oh, I don't know. Just,
Oh
just,
well,
just
there
talk
was a
around
fishbowl.
right now.
There was a fishbowl the other day. I wasn't in it. I was down there
Yeah.
with them. Kind of
Right.
walking along, saying
Uh-huh.
hi to people. But
Yeah.
I mean, I
Oh, it's talk now. It's talk out there. It is
well,
talk out there, man. Yeah.
I
Let's talk about some of the endorsements you have. You have some good endorsements. That you
yeah.
shared with us.
Well, listen, I don't want to drop names because I'm gonna leave that to them. Okay, but I think it's really flattering to me that and by the way, you can check my website because
Okay.
right now we're doing reels of endorsements. But
Can I have
we have
one
people
name?
like do you know Ray Smith from Cavalier Manor?
Right.
Ray Smith and I served together on
Mhm.
Portsmouth City Council. We've been friends ever
Okay.
since.
All
Elizabeth
right.
Simmons, also on City Council. Bill Moody,
Right.
also on Portsmouth City Council. These are
Mm-hmm.
people that I've served with.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes me proud of that, and I'm not going out to like governors and all that stuff because again, that to me doesn't matter. These are Portsmouth people.
Mm-hmm.
They worry about us, and I think they want the best for what we are doing and where we are and who we can be. So when I get
Mm-hmm.
endorsements like that, that's what makes me proud. Because
Right.
again, those are people, when you're serving on a city council or in the legislature with somebody, they don't always see you at your best. I can tell you that.
Right.
They see you under stress. They see you making decisions, and sometimes it doesn't go well. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have these people that I've known now for 20, 25 years, still standing up and saying, "Yeah, well, we support you, Steve," that means a lot to me because it tells me that maybe just maybe I've done something right over the years.
Very good. So what is the I guess the pitch or the slogan, or do you want to leave with the people before we go?
Listen, my slogan is simply this: Portsmouth deserves justice, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by that is this: we deserve to be adequately represented in the courts. We
Mm-hmm.
deserve to be treated fairly. We deserve to be treated with integrity. We deserve to be treated with transparency. Okay,
Right.
people deserve to know what's going on. So when you come in a courtroom, maybe as a juror or as a witness, you will understand and you will believe that if I or one of my attorneys is in that courtroom, that we're on our game, we're prepared, that we have respect for not only the process and the system, but the individuals involved on both sides, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And that, at the end of the day, when your decision as a juror is to convict or not, then at least you will have made that decision with as much balance and transparency as you can possibly bring to the table.
Right.
That's my job. So when I
Mm-hmm.
say Portsmouth deserves justice, I got to tell you, for the past few years, I think that's the last thing we've been getting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for lack of trying by the Portsmouth Police Department or the Portsmouth Sheriff's Department, but if it falls apart in a courtroom, we deserve better and we deserve justice. So that's where I would leave you.
All right. By the way, would you debate her?
Well, we've tried. um,
Mm-hmm.
we had an organization called the Van Lefko Leadership Forum had a
Right.
big thing at Roger Brown's about a week and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time publicly she would agree to appear. She would even, by the way, come to her own civic league meeting when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure. Sent her husband instead. But the thing is, what they didn't tell us going in was that she would not agree to be there if we could say anything bad about her record. Couldn't bring up a record.
Okay.
And so, I mean, it's hard to have a debate if you can't talk about the issues,
Where
I'm
can one
happy to.
find? Where can we find a copy of her record? Is there a place you can go?
There's no one place. I mean, it really does. I mean, you have to read the papers. I mean, you can go online.
Okay.
I mean, we've done we've tried to sort of assemble some of that. I talk about some of the cases that the office has blown, some of the
Right.
disbarments, and I mean, when you got an assistant Commonwealth attorney who's prosecuted for federal drug distribution, I mean,
Right.
really? I mean, come on. So we try to put that out there for the public, but there's no one repository. And I'll tell you, it's while we're on the subject, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
She is, somebody has sued the office under the Freedom of Information Act, trying to get information about a case that her
Right.
office kind of messed up some time ago. She refuses not only to give them that information, which she's required by law to do.
Mm-hmm.
She's hired a Norfolk law firm and spent over $140,000 of tax money to
Yeah.
try to defend her office from having to give up that information. So, transparency is not exactly what she believes in. So, listen, I would be happy to debate her anywhere, anytime. But
Right.
as far as I'm concerned, my record's on the table, and so is hers.
Okay. Would you say that there are criminals on the street right now because of her?
Oh, I think that's pretty clear. And again, if you're not convicted, I can't call you a criminal. But I can tell you that, some of the people that have walked away, especially on murder charges or
Mm-hmm.
the rape charge, I mean, there is substantial
Mm-hmm.
evidence that they have committed a crime, a serious crime, sometimes murder,
Right.
and they're right back out there doing it again.
Well,
You know,
the truth. Yeah.
So, I mean, I wish I could tell you that if you've been charged and somehow magically you've gotten off, you're never going to commit a crime again. But we know that's not exactly how it works.
Right.
If you
Right.
committed a crime and you've somehow magically gotten away, chances are you're going to do it again and again and
Oh,
again and again until somebody finally stops you.
if you were standing in front of her right now,
Right?
what would you say to her?
What have you been doing for 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Justify for me the fact that judges have not seen you in their courtrooms.
Mm-hmm.
You're not leading your team.
Mm-hmm.
Your attorneys are not prepared. You're hiring attorneys who've been disbarred. What is it that makes people want to avoid working for this office? Because and by the way, how do you keep making these same mistakes over and over and over and blaming everybody but yourself? Because as a leader, the buck stops here.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Truman, I think, said that, but it's true.
Right.
When your name is on the door and somebody makes a mistake, well, you own that. You eat that.
That's
And I
right.
can tell you that, no other office in the state, none of them have this problem. So why you, Stephanie? Why this office? And why does lightning keep striking again and again and again? Because if you learn the lesson the first time, you would never see a second problem. But we see a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth, and on it goes. So how are our streets any safer? How does anybody want to live in Portsmouth or send their kids to school here
Mm-hmm.
if they know that the odds of having to accept responsibility for your conduct
Right.
are slim and none? And that's really what I would say to her. Is like, look, just justify your existence. You want to be reelected? Okay, why? Why?
All right. And we're going to, of course, edit this and put it
Okay.
everywhere. But we're also I'm going to make sure that it gets emailed to her office.
Okay.
And if she has the time, we'll see what she says to this. If she
Listen, I
ignores
mean, if
it,
she
then
wants to come back, I'll be happy to get on with her, and we can sit here with you and have that conversation. I'm proud to do that.
well,
I mean,
she
again, if
will
you got nothing
see
to
this.
hide, you got nothing to hide.
Exactly. She'll see this. If
Yeah.
she, is ready enough and steady enough, and we'll see.
Well, sure. Well,
But
hey,
anyway,
listen, I
is there
appreciate the
anything?
opportunity to be on with you. I really do.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to share before we go?
No, listen,
Did we
no,
cover
I just,
everything?
I think we pretty much. I mean, I've kind of gotten it out there pretty much. But here's the thing. I just want to end with this. I've been around Portsmouth for a long time, and I've tried to step up and do the best I can do for the city. And this, to me, is just more of that. You know, honestly, I never thought I'd be running for another office at my age. I
Yeah.
can tell you, my wife was not thrilled. Um,
Oh,
but I think it needs to be done. And
right.
I think that over the next 4 or maybe 8 years, I can rebuild that office. I want to
Mm-hmm.
make us as efficient and as equipped to deal with problems as
Right.
Chesapeake and Norfolk and Virginia Beach. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
all of our neighbors. I want to make sure that when people talk about Portsmouth, they think, hey, this is a safe community. This is where I want to raise my kids. Because if something happens, God forbid, there's a
Mm-hmm.
guy in that job who's going to take care of business and he's going to do it right every time. And
Right.
that's really what I'm here for.
I agree. Every politician I've talked to from Norfolk says that before Portland can really be what it can be and grow in business and commerce, they've got to get this safety straight. They've got to
True.
get the crime straight
Yeah.
because that's why downtown MacArthur is a ghost town now because of the shootings and all that kind of stuff that they you know
You know, and again,
killed witnesses.
if we don't get a corner on gun crime, especially in Portsmouth,
Mm-hmm.
let's face it, man. I mean, we're never going to be able to do anything as a community. I mean, just the other night at the Norcom game,
Mm-hmm.
they had to stop the game and everybody had to leave because there was a gunfight across the street. I mean, I can
Yeah,
promise you that people don't think about gunfights all that much in Chesapeake because they know it's going to happen, or Virginia Beach or Norfolk. So
right.
why does it happen here? Just asking.
All right. And hopefully someone will get in contact with me to try to answer that. And if they do, I'll let you know about it.
I
And you can come
appreciate you.
on again. You still got
No,
some time, and you are welcome to come back. We'll just squeeze you in.
listen, I
Okay?
appreciate it.
Oh
Listen,
yeah,
thank you
we'll.
so much. You know,
I mean, just call me
I
and say,
will.
"Hey, can I come on for a few?" And the answer is already yes.
I appreciate you, man, very much.
Okay, because you
And
don't know
listen,
what's
man,
going to come up.
best to everybody else out there tonight. Stay dry, you stay safe, and please don't forget. I mean, we
Hmm.
have early voting going on now.
Yes,
Big day is November the 4th, and
right,
Portsmouth does deserve justice. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
right. Appreciate you, and like I said, I thought you did so well considering the time of the day with my good friend Mr. Joyner at over there PCE and 1350 and all that, and you didn't fall asleep here because I I've been
He,
there
get- he gets up early. Good
weekend.
Lord, man.
Yeah,
He, oof,
he does it well. See, he does it well,
he
and
does. He's done a long
yeah,
time
and
too.
yes,
So if you
and
come to that, yeah, I bet. Anyway,
yeah. But anyway, thank you so much,
thank you.
Attorney Heretic, and a plug. If someone needs your services, how do they get in contact with you?
I I'm a phone call away, 757-397-9923, or Steve, Steve, at Heretic Law, HERETICKLAW.com. I'm right here. My office in Midtown Portsmouth. Come knock on the door.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Be well. Take care.